What's up, Group Coach Nation? I'm excited about today. This is a story I've told a few times. I have Leah Leaves with me here today because she's instrumental in this process. And Leah, hi. Thanks for being here.
Love to be here.
You're going to give like so much more context and meat to this process than I possibly can. But before we dive in, I Forexed my income about a decade ago, maybe 12 years ago. And I've seen so many other people do this. Like a 3 to 5x is pretty normal on this. And it's not sales, it's not marketing, it's not all this other stuff. This is going to be boring, folks, but just pay attention. It's operational issues. Most of us, as entrepreneurs, as founders, as agency owners, as coaches, whatever it is we do in our expertise, we're really good at doing our thing. We're not really good at running a business, okay? This gets to be complicated. So what happened to me is I was working, I think it was in the 12, 14 hour a day range. It was really, really bad. I was missing my kids' lives. It was the whole thing, right? And we were just like scraping money together, trying to make it all work. So it was going, but it wasn't going like super smooth. And I got to a point where I was so frustrated with not having enough time and not having enough money. I finally believed an operational expert and took their advice and hired them to help me change. And I changed as an entrepreneur. I was running a creative agency at that point. I changed as an agency owner, and I figured out how to put the right systems in place and how to delegate. I figured out how to find the right person to delegate to. It didn't cost a fortune, and it allowed me to get free. And what happened was my time went from 12 to 14-hour days. In 4 months, I was down to 4-hour days. Half-day work, 5 days a week, and my income quadrupled. I was not trying to quadruple my income in that moment. I was trying to get my time and my life back. But when you get freedom back in your space as an entrepreneur, and you can take, let's say, half of that freedom to spend more time with your family or friends or have a life or whatever, and half of that freedom to do a little more prospecting or get on a few more podcasts or do a few more summits or whatever, all of a sudden, things rapidly change and you can really get off the roller coaster and take care of business. That's real me. That's why this title is this way and not something operational. So Leah has a group coaching program. She has an agency that does tons of work in this type space. And as you all know, we always have people on our program who have group coaching programs and we figure out how they do it. I just want to dive straight in, Leah, though, to what you do operationally. How do you coach? I know you coach agency owners, operators, like people who are building their business like I was, and get them through this process. Give us a little background of what you're doing, where you came from, but then I want to like ask point by point questions. Like, what do we do to make this shift happen? Is that cool?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. So I will jump into the deep end with who I am, what we do, where we're at now, because I am the owner of Alderaan Enterprise, or otherwise known as Alderaan Operations Solutions. And yes, for anyone kind of turning their heads at Alderaan, it is a Star Wars nod to Alderaan, Princess Leia's home planet in Star Wars. So we're total geeks and nerds over here, which lines up with what we do best, which is organize things, bring order out of chaos. And we have outsourced ops managers, ops directors. We have all that operational support, to do it for you. And the best part about our group coaching program is about exactly how to mentally shift from being more of that consultant, that accidental agency owner, to being more of that true agency founder, where you know who you are and what you do. And I came through the ranks, of agency life myself, did the typical, burn and churn, where I went from, the just boots on the ground through project management, account management, operations director, COO, all the ops stuff, all the business management stuff really, really intrigues me, because ultimately what I found through all of those experiences was that when you have the right systems, the right framework that you're working off of, yes, we love SOPs. Yes, we love processes and details like that. But that's not the end all be all, right? It's about the system as a whole. It's about the frameworks working together to get you out of the weeds. And that's really when the light bulb went off for me. And we started leaning into the operations side, for agency owners specifically. So the reason why I do all of this, because there are a lot of agency coaches out there, right? There are a lot of operations consultants, there are a lot of strategic planners that you may work with. And the reason I do what I do and focus on the operations side, specifically for those remote digital marketing agency and ad owners, is because I want to get the agency space, the agency industry back to its golden age. I fundamentally believe in the value of agencies. It's one of the few industries out there that can beautifully connect the dots between the right brain, left brain, right? The creative and the analytical. And to be able to do marketing strategies so well and then execute on it just as well is incredible. It's such a value, to B2B, B2C, anyone that you're working with. And I want to really elevate the agency industry out of the churn and burn culture and back to that golden age. And operations is the name of the game. Operations is where it's going to win.
I freaking so agree. By the way, we used to teach this years ago after we figured it out, and we stopped doing that because obviously now all we do is teach people how to build group coaching programs and masterminds. But like that's why Leah's here. Is you got to get this figured out. You got to freaking you said something a second ago, get out of your own way. You got to get out of your own way. I typed that out because I was like, that is the thing. Oh my gosh, let yourself grow. Okay, so Leah, step 1, 2, 3, like start giving us structure here.
Yeah, very first step is when you are getting out of your own way, you have to communicate first and foremost what your expectations and your vision are. That is the downfall of so many agency owners, is that we come into their systems, we plug and play, and we hear from them time and again that like, oh, well, they're not doing it my way, or I don't trust that they're going to do it to my service level. It's like, right. They're not going to, like they meaning your team, because you've never actually told them what are your expectations, what is your way of thinking, and again, we're not talking about getting it all documented into line by line technical manuals. That may come later. We may, edge into that later with the team, not with you. But first and foremost, with you as the agency owner, this goes actually for any small business owner, especially online, especially remote business owners, you have to over communicate. So we always start with the bigger picture vision. Where do you want to go? What do you want it to look like? What is most important to you? Because this is your business, right? And you need to be communicating, again, over communicating what your expectations are. So for example, we were working with an agency owner who just couldn't quite communicate correctly with the team, kept jumping back into the systems, kept taking work back, which then breaks that trust, with your team. And when we sat down and said, okay, what the frick is going on here? You have a great team, you have good systems, things are actually working well, but you seem to keep jumping back in and kind of messing, with the systems. And this was 2 years into working together. So it's like, okay, something's going on. And what came out of that conversation was that there was this feeling of this lack of urgency on the team, that they were now sticking too close to the processes, too close to the systems, that the client first mentality or the customer first mentality that the owner really prided themselves on when they built the company to begin with, that was no longer in alignment. And I was like, thank you for telling us that, because that's a simple fix in the sense of just talking with the team, adjusting some of those expectations on the systems and processes, also having the team collaborate on the next quarterly goal of how do we improve our systems to be more client first, right? And because it's not a telling, it's not, oh, I want you to do this, so just go do it. This is, how. It's, you don't have to tell them the how, right? It is, this is why I want this. This is what it means to me. And when we collaborate together, that's how we are going to really elevate and achieve the goals together. That's number one.
So agree. Here's how I picture this, Leah. This is the stupidest metaphor ever, but this is how my brain works. You know how my brain works. I'm not a golfer. I hate playing golf. Ironically, I do catch myself watching golf. No idea why that connection happens. I think of it like that's my business. I don't like doing this stuff. I'm bad at this stuff. I'm in the weeds, so to speak. And I don't need to figure out how to be a better golfer because that's not my skill set. But the golf game has to go on. That's part of business. But I do need to figure out, who do I put out there on the golf course? What kind of training do I get them? What kind of system are they going to follow? And what are the goals we have? This hole in this many strokes, and that's the process. And here's the tools. They're all in the bag. Like, it's not my thing. So I'm going to suck at it. Let somebody else who freaking loves golf go play golf. Okay. Point two.
Point two relates to that, is not only with the communication of the big picture vision, because that's in a story format, right? That's in a narrative that you really want to share that so that people can feel it, not just, be told it. They can understand why it's important to you. Now, in step number two, it is taking that and then giving it certain expectations and boundaries and saying, okay, here's what I want that to look like in practical terms. And for some agency owners, that may be in practical terms, like, I really want to hit $1 million in annual revenue. I want to hit 10 million in annual revenue, 20, 100, in this time frame. And we'll get into more of the why with them and kind of break that down, peel back the layers of that onion. Kind of, why is that really important to you? What does that actually mean? But that is where they start with some of those expectations of those bigger picture goals to be actually actionable, practical, attainable, and then we'll figure out the realistic part later. But it's really about giving people that framework. Again, we're getting into systems, into framework. And if the input is initially that vision and the output is that expectation of, like, here's a number I want to hit, or here is where I want to be by X, time frame. Everything else in between, all those milestones, those goals, those processes and procedures, that's what your team can really be responsible for. All right. And so at that point, in the systems and the framework that you're giving them, is a 3-step system. We try and simplify just about everything to a 3-step system because anyone can understand beginning, middle, and end, right?
Yeah.
Step 1, step 2, step 3. So if you say, okay, here's my vision and here's what I expect, you figure it out in the middle. I'm going to check in the middle, right? I may have some oversight as an agency owner and say, like, hey, how's it going? Are we on track? And you use a 3-step stoplight system in that case, red, yellow, green. Are we at risk? Are we off track? Are we on track? Make it as simple as possible so that along the way, you don't have any surprises, so that at the tail end of, like, that timeline expectation, when you see that it's been red the whole time and then the team is like, oh, well, we missed that. We didn't achieve it. It's not a surprise versus, oh, you've been working on this, or you think the team has been working on this, for a year. And then you come up at the end of the year and they're like, oh, we didn't achieve it. And you're like, what the heck? You had a year, to work on this. Right. And so that's how we give the agency owners that system of give the input, expect the output, set the expectations for the output, and then really empower your team to handle it internally. And part of that system, this is, okay, I'm going to just give you a warning. We are going to get into a little bit of the details here, a little bit of the operations side. But there are some factors, of that stuff in the middle that you as the agency owner are going to have to be responsible for still. It is not the actual day-to-day work. It is not the actual planning, potentially, right? But it is the oversight and the check-ins, that feedback loop. Because what I mean by that is, think of, and this was from Atomic Habits by James Clear, that book that, like, everyone loves, I love, and he relates in there that, think of when you're going from in a plane, from East Coast to West Coast, and you could be 1 degree off on either side, and it doesn't seem like much, but by the time you get to your destination, you're either in Washington, or practically almost in Mexico, right? Yeah. And so that's the feedback loop that you need to have all through that process, is when you say, here's my vision, here's what I would love to see, and then here's what it looks like at the end, then having those little touch points along the way so that you can course correct and help give them that feedback so that they're not 1% off course or 1 degree off course and they're, like, dramatically at the end completely in the wrong state. So giving them those little course corrections along the way in a feedback loop honestly, it could be as simple as, hey, we have a monthly check-in call, and the team tells you, what are they doing? What have they done? What are they doing next? Are they hitting any roadblocks? Are they over capacity? And so all the goals, are just being floated to the side, and they're just focusing on client work. And this is where, of course, an operations professional can come in handy, to make sure that it's being managed accordingly. But at the very least, on a monthly basis, if not even a little bit more frequently, would be great. Having the agency owner's perspective, having that feeling come through in sharing, hey, I love that you guys did this. This is so cool. Having those acknowledgments, those appreciations really goes a long way with your team. You have to tell them thank you over and over and over again, because for every 10 of those, it's going to take up one of those times that you say, yeah, I don't like this.
Yeah.
And then the team's like, oh crap, what did we do wrong? And you don't want to demotivate them. So you do need to give them feedback and say, yeah, this isn't quite what I had envisioned. Let me talk it out to you. And I'd say more often than not, with agency owners, we find that the talking out method is the best. If that doesn't work for you, write it out. Speak it into an audio message, put it into a Loom. If you like visuals, sketch it out on your notebook, take a picture, send it to the team in Slack, right? Like, you can communicate however you like to communicate, and then work with the team to deconstruct it and understand it. So that's getting into a little bit of like the systems, where again, you have your input, your output, and then in between you have this recurring feedback loop where you are sharing with them if it's good or if it's bad. Plain and simple.
Love it. Oh my gosh. This is all so true. I know, everybody, that we're getting into the weeds. If you're still listening or watching this episode, you know who you are. Like, pay attention. This stuff actually changed everything for me. It gave me space and freedom. And it is so freaking hard to get your brain around how to do this as the entrepreneur. Unless you're wired like Leah, it's really, really hard to do it. So, okay, Leah, is there a third point we should go after?
Oh, there's always a third point. So yes, as you can tell, I like the number
threes,
three.
yeah.
Again, everyone can remember 1, 2, 3, right? So, if number one was, the vision, the goals, the big picture, and communicating that. Number 2 is having that overarching system and framework, to kind of build out. Then number 3 is getting into a little bit of the weeds, but it's really getting into the weeds of people, right? Into your team, because the thing that's going to make all of this work, and Chris, I'd love to hear if this was true for you as well, was when you have the team that's on your side, that's got your back, that is willing to go to bat for you, and that speaks your language and holds the same core values that you do, that trust in them builds the flywheel, builds the traction. Exactly. I love it. Team is everything. And this is where you'll often, especially at the beginning stages of working to hand things off and delegate, a lot of agency owners, feel like that's a massive mountain to climb. How could I possibly get anyone to do what I do? And first step is always acknowledging that you have a problem. But no, first step, is saying that you just communicate. It's all coming back to some level of communication, and with your team, it is communicating more frequently, more regularly with them, telling them, what they're doing right, what they're doing could be better. Yeah, you have something?
Yeah, I want to just back up one step, because you just said something that we have to acknowledge. And you can't say it because you're nice and you don't want to trash people on my show, but I'll do it for you.
Oh, I know what you're alluding
Everybody,
to.
it's your freaking fault. It's your fault if you're not growing. If you hired 10 VAs and they haven't worked out, it's your fault. It's your fault. It's okay. Own it. Like, I had to get to that place. Leah just said, like, first you got to acknowledge you have a problem. Yes, this is a 12-step program. You got to say, hi, I'm Chris. I have a problem with delegating or hiring or building a system or whatever. And that's okay. In fact, it's fantastic because it's not your job. So you got to get your mindset out of, I am an agency owner and I have to do everything, a coach, consultant, whatever you are. Then I have to do all this stuff because nobody's as good as me, or I haven't found the right person, or systems are too complicated, or whatever you're saying has kept you from it, right? Okay, got to get our mind away from that and say, you know what? I am going to commit to growth. I'm going to multiply my agency, my coaching business, whatever. I'm going to do it. And that means I have to do a very few things that I'm gifted at. And I have to let someone else do the things, which inevitably means I have to figure out how to hire and retain those people and lead those people and give those people a chance to succeed, just like everything Leah's talking about. So Leah, keep going. Team is freaking everything. One more thing. We've hired a lot of people over the years. We rarely hire someone who's actually not a good employee or a team member. Rarely. If there's a failure, it's usually on our side. We didn't communicate. We didn't set expectations. We didn't do the boundaries. We didn't like what you're talking. So anyway,
Yes,
keep going.
100%. Well, and this goes to the concept of extreme ownership by Jocko Willing. That everything that you can have in your control pretty much is always in your control. And there are very few things that when you look back and reflect, they're like, oh yeah, actually, I could have never changed that. It's like, that's all about planning. That's all about preparation. That's all about the feedback loop. And I know most agency owners that I talk with, it's an overwhelming concept to them when I'm like, one, you need to communicate more because they're like, when do I have time for that? Two, you need to delegate more. When do I have time for that? Three, you need to step back and only do the things that you're specialized at. When do I have time for that? Because everything they feel like it's just going to break down. And they look at it from that 1-to-1 ratio of 1 hour of my time to one particular activity. That is where we need to kind of break through, the biggest barrier, because honestly, it's not a time thing. It is an efficiency. Can you be more efficient, with your communication? Can you be more communicative, with how often, you are discussing things with the team? And when I say communicative, I mean, can you give more detail than you normally do? Again, an example of this is that we will often see the agency owners, again, jump back into the weeds when they feel like someone isn't doing something right, and they just take it back and do it. And they're not communicating during that time why, right? That's like the basics, is why do they feel that way, that you're not doing it correctly? So I have to, what am I now doing to make it right? What am I fixing? When is this going to be the case again? And now we can get into other systems of, okay, we have templates, we have checklists, like we have tools that can help get you out of that. But you're exactly right, Chris, that they have to have that mindset shift, or at least have their mind be open enough to absorb some of that, so that they can shift from being the consultant, the do-it-all, the one-man show, to, oh, by the way, I do have a team of 10, and I could probably leverage, some of their skills. And we could probably, do this better, right?
Yeah.
Again, I know I'm making it sound really, really simple, and quote unquote easy right now. And it is that straightforward. If you follow that 3 steps, of just communicating your goals, your bigger picture vision, using a simplified framework, to give them that input, set the expectations of what you want to see at the output, building it in of some feedback along the way, and then building up the trust with your team by letting them go out and make mistakes and do the work and test the boundaries, and in that framework, right? This is not like, oh, Wild West, like just go let them do anything they want. It is from the top down, right? It's from big picture to in the weeds, boots on the ground. So you've given them all of this context and all of this framework for them to then play within. And yeah, they may only get 80% right. That's okay. It's better than you doing 100% and them doing 0. Right. So those are some of those steps along the way, and investing that time into your team, especially up front, it pays dividends for years to come.
You're absolutely right. I'm just going to put the get out of your own way up here again. Get out of your own way. All right. I have some very tactical next steps that helped me. I'll get to those in a second, but I know people are like, come on, how do we get in touch with Leah? Great. So here's Leah's website. If you're just listening, I'll read it out to you. It's alderaanenterprises.com. So it's ALDERAAN Enterprises, ENTERPRISE, not plural, sorry, just alderaanenterprise.com. So there it is on screen also. And if you want us to reach out to her on LinkedIn, you can. It's on screen. I'll drop her links below. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Nothing like sneezing on a show. So there's her LinkedIn account also, and reach out to her there. Ask questions. Here's what works and what doesn't work for everybody listening in. And I'm only saying this because it's been my story, and I'm not the expert here. That's Leah's job, but it works. Here's what works and what doesn't work. What doesn't work is hacking away, trying to do everything on your own and hoping it works out, and keep working more and more hours and thinking you're going to get it. What does work is letting someone help you. Okay. And I don't mean in this case, I don't mean Leah. I mean like having someone on your team and having systems on your team. Systems are like people, they get stuff done. Having systems and people around you that allow you to be you. So what I did is I found someone like Leah. This is before I knew Leah. Wish I'd known her then. And I hired them to coach me and teach me as the entrepreneur. Like, here's my business. Here's the whole plan. Here's what I'm trying to accomplish. How do I freaking quit doing 12 hours a day? And then I had to get accountability. And I had to, for me, I actually set my timer up on my phone where I had a timer that went off 20 minutes earlier every day. So every day from the first day I started working with this coach, I set a timer from 9 p.m. That was the first timer that went off. So I had to be home by 9 p.m. Computer off, phone off, etc. Every day, 5 days a week, I got 20 minutes sooner. The next day was 8:40. The next day was 8:20. The next day was 8 o'clock. So every week I'm picking up an hour or more. Rapidly, I had to start making changes. And if I didn't get home, have the phone and computer off by that time, I had to pay everybody in the kitchen waiting for me, which I have 5 kids plus Jill. So there's 6 of them there at home at 9 o'clock at night, $1 per minute I was late. That's $400 an hour. You got to decide, how important is it for you to actually get your life back, actually get your profitability up, and actually be able to scale like you want to? That's all you have to decide. And if you actually want that, you're in a couple of stages, okay? You're either out there solo, trying to hack it all on your own. If that's you, call Leah. You're out there and you have a couple of team members. You're struggling with that process. You're not quite sure why it's not as efficient, why they aren't getting their work done. If you've hired the right people, all that stuff, call Leah. You're out there trying to figure out, oh my gosh, Chris, I have a team of 20 and it's a freaking nightmare. It's all over the place. Call Leah. Here's why I'm saying call Leah. She's not the master at everything, but her network is incredible. She will fix something if she can for you, and she will refer you to somebody else if she can. It's not my jam, but you all have that same problem. I do, and we still have operational experts come in and help us get better and better here at Group Coach Nation. Call Leah. Pretty straightforward. Yeah. Any last nugget of truth you want to leave us with, or are we good?
You know, honestly, I would love to share that I've been in this position myself as well. So just like you have in your business, you know, and see where you are at today, you know, I've done the same thing. Actually, I've done it 4 times over at the same time. And what I mean by that is that I've been a fractional COO at the same time that I'm growing my own business. So I've had 4 other businesses that I've grown at the same time as mine. So 5 total. And learning I know it's a lot, too much. And so it was really important for me a few years ago to understand, like truly understand everything that I was sharing, of course, with the agency owners I was working with directly, to really understand it and absorb it myself. And we're all on this journey, right? We all learn it at different paces and different pathways. And for me, I understood that it is so important to help individual agency owners like yourself back in the day, to understand this, just like I have, just like you have, because we can operate at such a higher level. We have so much more to give, so much more value, for our customers, our clients, our team, our communities, our families, and to get out of those weeds. And I did go through the same process. chip away at it, use the systems and the frameworks that I built myself and use them on me, right? It's very similar to like the cobbler's kids have no shoes, the operations lady didn't have enough operations, and so I was doing it for everyone else. And when I finally did it for myself, I had the same breakthrough, right? The same bottleneck where I was the bottleneck. And the moment that I shifted that mindset and shifted those gears to say, you know what, I can do this just like anyone can do this. I have not the resources, the money, the this and that. It wasn't about even those pieces. It was about I have an open enough mind that this is going to figure itself out, right? That if I follow these processes and I chip away at it, it's going to work, and it has, and it can for every other person out there as well. So, and this has all been remote. My whole career has been remote, and so I thrive in this space, of sharing, this information. And like you said, if anyone reaches out to me, if operations isn't the name of the game that you need right now, maybe you need, sales support. Maybe you need, a marketing strategy. Maybe you need just an HR professional because you're dealing with a compliance issue. Now I'm getting into the weeds, of operations stuff. But we have those people in our network, and we really want to just help you, the agency owner, the small business owner, the remote owner, get out of the weeds, go from that overwhelm back to the in control. Yes, get out of your own way. Mm-hmm.
Get out of your own way, everybody. Leah, thank you. Thanks for explaining things, and thanks for just being here for this community. This is the real stuff. This is not the flashy, cool stuff. This is actually the real stuff. Thank you. Yeah.
My pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
Everybody, as always, do work to get results. But please do the right work. Please do the right work. If you need more about Group Coach Nation or group coaching, mastermind, all that kind of stuff, groupcoachnation.com is our website. Just Google us, you'll find us. But if you need help getting out of your own way, please reach out to Leah. Okay, there it is. Alderaan Enterprise, again, right there on the screen. And her LinkedIn profile, all the connection points, we'll post that around wherever you found this so you can reach directly out to her or chat in the comments or whatever. Okay, Leah, thank you so much. Again, thanks for your time. Thanks for being in our community too. Like, I get to see you all the time. This is so great. You're really cool. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I love the community, and I'm excited to share what I can to help people make their lives better.
Let's do it. All right, do the right work, folks. Get to it. Bye, y'all.